Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Imagine becoming a cabinet secretary in the Trump administration and your first job is to eliminate the cabinet. That would be weird, but Secretary Linda McMahon is actually pretty excited about it. It's the Department of Education, and we've been promised for a lot of decades. I know you know that, Secretary. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, all the way back to Ronald Reagan.
Right, exactly. And it was only a few years old back then.
That's right. And it just, it was established in 1980. And Ronald Reagan thought that it had way too much bureaucracy and he wanted to shut it down, but he wasn't successful in convincing Congress. So that's part of the job that I have. I have to convince Congress that the best thing to do for the students in our country is to shut down the Department of Education. And I think the only way I can do that is to have them as a partner, to be transparent with them, and to understand that what I'm looking to hand off to the states will make education better, and that they can get on board with that.
I was hoping, I spoke with Chairman Smith of the Ways and Means Committee, and I was hoping that through the reconciliation process, they might be able to get this done. He told me that that's not within the rules. I'm still not sure about that. But what does the legislative process look like here?
I think, well, at this point, the legislative process really just, I think, me keeping Congress informed as to what I'm doing. Now, obviously, they will have to eventually vote, but a couple of bills are being put through to shut down the department. Almost as soon as I was on board, there was a bill that was put through by, I think, a senator from Illinois. Mm-hmm. And I may have that wrong, but we can double check that. But so there are a couple of bills that are put forth, and but I don't think they will pass because Congress doesn't know what we are planning and what we are trying to do.
Yeah.
And until they're assured that they are acting in the best interest of their constituents, then they're not going to vote to shut down the department.
So in the meantime, you're able, from your end, to basically just sort of reallocate what the Department of Education is doing. And you've already done that a bit, right, with student loans and other things.
Yes, with the student loans, we're working with Treasury to restart the collection program. But I will also be working with HHS to see if what possibilities there are potentially there for the IDEA funding for handicapped and special needs children, and also for some Title I. There are also some programs that are in education that are best suited for labor. So we're having those conversations as well with our new Secretary of Labor. So, the workforce development program, short-term Pell Grants, those kind of things. And so by the time we get through the different departments and where I think these educational programs will best fit, I think we'll have a really good plan.
I'm a parent of two special needs children, by the way. And my youngest is graduating high school this year. He has a independent education protocol, an IEP, because he's on the autism spectrum. He's nonverbal. During COVID, during the lockdown, when our children were forced to use a laptop and sit isolated in our kitchen, I heard nothing from these Democrats about special needs children and how critically important it was that they get what they need and get what they deserve. I would love for you to speak to that point, because now all they do is talk about special needs children and how you and the president are leaving them out on the curb.
Well, I think that's a big talking point for them, and they really have no idea what they're talking about, because the president clearly said that the funding for these programs is not going to stop. The funding will
I would argue it's better routed through HHS than it is through education.
And it could be better routed, and that's where it was before. I've also talked to Secretary Kennedy about that, and he's very anxious to take on those take on those programs. Very willing to do that, but the funding goes directly to the states.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that the states have the most funds available to them, to get more paraprofessionals in the classroom, to make sure they have more technology as they need to help special needs kids. And so that's what we'll be focusing on.
Parents are afraid. Parents hear this stuff. They see these things. They see Randy Weingarten and the teachers union going out there, scaring them purposefully. How hard is it to cut through and get the message out? And especially when the media doesn't seem to be working on your side.
Well, I heard Randy Weingarten say that the president wanted to get rid of education.
Yes.
Now, if that doesn't speak for itself, clearly this is.
Well, she's like Anthony Fauci. See, she is education, just like Fauci was science, right?
So, the president's goal is to make sure that every child in the country has equal access to an excellent education. He wants to see these scores go up. He's incredibly supportive of local education. He believes, as I do, that the best education is closest to the child.
Right.
So parents, teachers, principals, school administrators, they understand what is really needed, and they understand what is best in their community. Because really, we want to graduate students who have the opportunity to either go on for college if that's where they need to be, or if not, to have given them some training in school so that they skill-based workforce, so that they can move into the economy and into the workforce and start making a living for themselves.
Was it a mistake to move toward national standards a couple of decades ago and sort of, instead of resisting the Department of Education, sort of putting through these standards that made, you hear it all the time, that teachers were teaching to the test and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think, and you can over test. That is for sure. In fact, one of the things that we are looking to streamline is the money that goes into research and testing at Department of Education. Now, I believe that we do need national testing, and that's very important. So streamlining doesn't mean get rid of all of those different programs, because we do need the national testing, because you have to compare apples to apples. And I believe you can't see how you're really doing, because states can, they can skew their own results and that sort of thing. So you do need a national standard for that. But when we looked at core curriculum and those kinds of programs, it wasn't suitable for every particular state and school.
I'd love for you to speak to the protection of women's sports. I know that has been a big priority of yours and the president's, and you are getting resistance. And right in our backyard, Fairfax County, Virginia, has already announced that they're going to not only resist their governor, but also resist the president on the mandates. What can be done there? People see that and it's like, well, what's the point of having rules? What's the point of laying these things out if you can just be ignored and defied?
Well, the hammer that the Department of Education has is that we can cut funding for those schools that are not in compliance. I mean, it is the law. Title IX is the law. And in spite of some of the things that the Biden administration tried to do, courts threw it out, vacated, the Biden statute. And so it is now, it reverts, to where it was before the Biden administration. And President Trump has made very clear, not only in accordance with the law, but with his own EO, that women play in women's sports and men play in men's sports, and that's the way it's going to be. So we have the defunding club, if you will, to make sure that we can let schools know that we mean what we say.
Club and hammer. You just can't, break the wrestling thing, can you? These all sound like characters from a Saturday night fight. The president speaks about school choice a lot, and it seems to be a huge supporter of the idea. Is that something that can be directed at the federal level or encouraged from the federal level? If there are parents who are out there who are looking for options, what can you do through the Department of Education to get that done?
Well, certainly encouraged at the federal level. I don't think we should pass federal law that says, that every state should have school choice and how it should be administered, because I do think
that falls into the trap,
then
right?
You fall into the trap. But I think that we can provide information and best practices to schools to let them learn how successful that has proven in many cities and states to have school choice. No parent should have to look at their child and know that they have to leave them in a failing school. That's why the president has been so supportive of school choice with vouchers or other means, school savings accounts, because students should have that opportunity to move where they can be successful.
Who do you think's doing it right in this country? What state do you look to saying, yeah, this is a good model for the rest of the nation?
Well, I think it's a work in progress, but we have seen success already. Many schools in Florida. We've seen success in Iowa. Texas just passed last week after a 2-year or 3-year try to get educational savings accounts passed, which means that you can take scholarship money to move a child to a different school. So they're very anxious to see how that'll work for them.
Yeah, and we're always told we're of a global economy. When you look around the world, when you look at other education systems from our international partners or even our adversaries, do you see something that they're doing right that we could maybe adopt here and make it American?
One of the things that I will be doing is learning more about those systems. So I don't have that exact system to tell you today, but
you've had plenty to do in these first 100 days.
Yeah.
But in these first 100 days, I mean, what is the biggest? Go ahead. What's the biggest success here in your first 100 days from your eyes? Because a lot of what you've had to do, like I said, is sort of streamline, dismantle, get rid of people who were not people, but getting rid of programs that were wasteful. What are you hanging your hat on right now?
Well, I think we have done a lot in these first 100 days to really start getting the message out about what the president's goals are. And I've already traveled to several states to meet with different administrators. I've talked to several governors who are very interested in how they can be very helpful in their states. We have, just on a practical basis, as you mentioned, we've cut half of our staff already. We've closed satellite offices, district offices, and consolidated some into the main office here in D.C., and we'll continue to do that. So I think we've had great strides in this first 100 days.
All right. Well, Secretary McMahon, I appreciate you joining us. I know it's a busy day and a busy, exciting week here as we acknowledge the first 100 days, and your work has just begun. It
has really just begun, but hopefully my legacy will be to have made President Trump the education president that has made education of students in the United States some of the best in the world.
You literally hope to be the last Secretary of Education.
That is my goal, to be the last secretary.
Have you already thought about the next job? Is that too
No, I'm not worried about that. This one's plenty big for me.